for mind that we can accomplish anything if we only put our mind to it. Please welcome Mumtaz Mumtaz Sheikh. Her speech title is How Can 90 Minutes in a Week Change Our Lives? Welcome, Mumtaz. Please give us your insights.
A very good evening to everybody, ladies. I hope we're all doing great. Let's talk about some of the intrinsic realities of our lives. 10,080 minutes or 168 hours is what we spend as women doing various activities. Now, let me not say what are these activities. Let me ask you all, what are some of the activities that we indulge ourselves in, and how do we manage to not realize where the time has passed by? So I would wait for your responses, and let's see what are some of the things that we as women do in the entire week, and how do we pass our time? I will wait for you to respond in the chat. The chat option is right at the bottom of your screen. You click on it and you can type in your responses. Social media, wow. Cook, clean, kitchen, cooking, household chores, doodling, cook, clean, homemaker. Well, completely relatable. I am so glad and I am so aware about all of this because I do the same. But let's see how we can move away from this a little bit. Now, when I was a child, I used to often ponder that if I calculate 168 hours into months and years, you would be surprised by the statistics that at least 40 to 50 years, if we live that long as women, we end up spending doing things for others, right? Now, let me ask you again, why did I ask what I asked you? In this interim of 168 hours, except for 10% of the responses, how many of you all really managed to do the things that you like? I do see that there are a couple of responses here, but because my question was different, if any one of you does anything that you really are interested in, you can type that too on the chat. Music, morning walk, reading, yoga. Great. Now I'll tell you something interesting that happened. When I asked you about what are some of the things that you do in the entire week in 168 hours, the responses that were coming were really fast. Cooking, cleaning, homemaker, this, that, da, da, da. But when I asked, what are some of the things that you do? There was a pause. And I could really see what's happening here. I think I made my point clear. The point that I'm trying to make is, do you really want to spend the rest of your life in the same way? If you haven't been able to spend at least 10% of that for your self-development. Now, let me take you back to what Zig Ziglar said. Zig Ziglar says, 1 hour daily in the field that you want to become an expert in, if you religiously spend that 1 hour daily in your life, in the next 5 years, you would become a national subject matter expert in the field you have chosen to. I repeat, just 1 hour daily. If you spend in the field that you want to become an expert in, it will just take 5 years to become a national expert in that particular field. Now, I know some of you must be wondering, it's just said, it's easy to be said than to be done. But let me tell you a little story. All of you may have heard about sharpening the saw, but if you haven't, let me take you back to the forest. Imagine we are taking a walk in the woods and we see a man who's feverishly trying to cut that wood. He looks tired and really frustrated but he's continuing to cut that tree down and he seems determined. You look at him and you say, well, what are you doing? And he says, don't you see that I am cutting down the tree? You would tell him, you look really tired. For how long are you doing this? And he'd tell you that I've been doing it for 5 hours. I'm really tired and I'm beat. Now you tell him, well, you obviously look exhausted. Hence I asked, why don't you take a rest? Why don't you rest for a few minutes and you sharpen your saw? That would help you cut down the trees really fast. He looks at you empathetically and says, well, I don't have time to cut down. I don't have time to sharpen my saw. I just want to cut down this tree. What just happened? Don't you think it would have been faster for him to clearly sharpen the saw and then cut down the tree? But unfortunately, all of us are really only cutting down trees. There is not one moment that we are taking to ourselves where we are waiting to sharpen the saw and then cut down that tree that will come down really fast. By very nature, human beings have 4 dimensions. And that's not by me, that's by Stephen Covey. The 4 dimensions that he speaks of is physical, social, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Now, because we are all women and the kind of activities we are involved in, and we are technically super women, we sometimes do so many activities that by choice or without choice, the physical aspect of our well-being is somehow managed. Sometimes either by awareness or sometimes by no choice, wherein we have fallen prey to a disease and then we have no choice but to take care of ourselves. So that aspect is somehow managed. Spiritual. As Indians, we are wired in a way that some sort of a faith or some kind of a healing power and principles are bought into us anyhow. So the spiritual aspect, very well taken care of. My concern and my interest really lies in the other 2, which is the social, emotional, and the mental aspect. When I talk about these 2, I have one more question for you. When was the last time you really did something which helped you develop your mind or which helped you connect with someone just to break the ice or just to feel better about yourself or you were just appreciated? Because I realize these 168 hours in a week that we spend, most of it is a thankless job because I do it myself. I have a 4-year-old and I have work from home as well. So I get it. But is there any platform that you really visit where you are appreciated sometimes for just even being there, or merely your presence being there helps you grow yourself and your mind? Because when I was a child and I saw all of this happening with my mother and my sister, and my sister is here, and I hope it's okay for me to give you that example. I decided I did not want to be only the one who's going to die. And when my qualities and my potential shouts out to me and says, I was in you, I was there all the time, but you did not bring life to me. And now, just because you were burdened with commitment and you did not find any time for yourself, I have to die with you. I decided in the 30th year of my life that after spending 10 years of me only working and getting my dreams to reality, which is buying a house, buying a car, there is no peace. That is because something that I really wanted to do was continuing to shout out inside of me for 10 years, that inner voice, but I never heard it. On the 30th year, when I saw 50% of my life, or maybe even more, has already gone by, Mumtaz, do you really want to be that 50 or 60 years who's just spending the life for someone else? So the point of me trying to tell you all of this is, where I found my source of energy and appreciation and motivation was this only one place that I find in the entire world which is selflessly dedicated towards self-growth and self-motivation is Toastmasters. In 2018, when I joined Toastmasters, and we are all lucky to be attending this meet from the comfort of our homes, I would travel to the Toastmasters club that I joined after my night shift all the way from Malad to Bandra, only to see those faces because I knew they are selflessly going to appreciate me and push me to get the best out of me. They don't have any intention or they don't want me to do anything for them for me to be able to do something. Those faces were my source of energy, so much so that I managed to even spend more than 24 or 36 hours without sleep, and I'm still alive and kicking. Why? Because if you really do what you want to do, you're only going to be happy and you're only going to be successful. It is your choice whether you want to become an Oprah Winfrey, or you want to become a Sarah, or you want to become a Sage Levine, or you want to become a Melinda Gates, or you just want to burden yourself and feel guilty somewhere later in your life that you could have done something, but you didn't do that. So my only request to all of you is decide to sharpen your saw, because I am off to sharpening my saw. So are you sharpening your saw, or are you just busy cutting down the trees? I'll leave the stage to the Toastmaster, and for anything that you have any questions, the floor is open to questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mumtaz. That was so insightful. Let's go ahead with the meeting and let me call upon the general evaluator, Shweta. When I asked Shweta about her biggest fear, she says that she has a fear of reptiles. Well, that's the biggest fear for me too. Fear of cockroaches and desserts. Since she is a travel buff, she went on camping in some jungles loaded with creepy crawlies, which helped her. She haven't really overcome the fear, but at least now she don't freak out as much as earlier. Welcome, Shweta. Over to you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Kalpana. I will now first embark into the evaluation section for today. So this is a Karthik calling Karthik moment for me. So I will invite Gauri to evaluate Toastmaster Gauri's speech. Over to you, Toastmaster Gauri Kadam.
Thank you, Toastmaster Shweta. Am I audible and visible?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Toastmaster Gauri. His speech title was Inspiration is the Fuel for Hustle. In this particular speech, that one thing that I noticed throughout your delivery is the